Alright guys, welcome back. So today we'll be taking a look at the Mcfarlane Toys Elite Edition Spawn. And I say Elite Edition in air quotes there because the body just looks pretty much like a typical DC Multiverse figure. So hopefully the body doesn't have the myriad of problems that those usually come with. No torso range and that sort of thing. But yeah, we all wanted a classic Spawn for many years. There was the Kickstarter Spawn, but not everybody could have afforded that at the time, me included. So it was nice to see that they were actually releasing a retail version of Classic Spawn. But for $60, I don't think it's up to scratch. But we're gonna take a look at it and give it an honest review. Nonetheless, let's crack this package open and see what we get inside. Taking a look at the packaging, I do like this package quite a lot, and it's actually the figures front and center in there, full body shown, so that is a good thing. A good slash bad thing sometimes. You can actually see down here that the spiked brace that he has on his foot there is actually sagging down, so I don't know if it's the band causing that, but I guess once we open it we'll see. But you do have the Spawn logo right there. You have Image Comics founders, Elite Edition, Mcfarlane and stuff, written in gold foil. You do have that classic image of Spawn. Still love this artwork. I'd love to get a full size like poster of that one. On this side, another classic piece of art. You do have your legal information at the bottom there. Spawn at the top. Do like the fact that they put the old window on top there for that light to shine down. But yeah, let's get him out of here. Alright, so let's take a closer look at Spawn. He's a bit tall, so I'll just sit him down here so I can get him in frame. Taking a look at the head, it does look pretty good. No complaints there. The eyes do have that nice green tint. You can see the edges of the mask, however, a bit fuzzy, which is not ideal. Might have to get like a fine point paint marker and just try to go around those edges and just kind of clean them up a little bit. I do like the little skulls on the thing there, but if they were doing metal chains, why not just do one right here as well? Just to complete the sort of look. I'll talk about the soft goods cape afterwards, but moving along to the arms and stuff, you can see the paint is not the cleanest going along there. I will commend them for one thing though. The stripes and all the markings on the chest there are actually sculpted in. So that is pretty good. But definitely need some cleaning up with like a little paint marker or something. Once again, shouldn't have to be doing that. The shoulders are a typical Mcfarlane with the ball joint and the cup covering it there, but this the arms don't really have much range forward, so it's the same old deal. Taking a look at the markings on the chest there, looks pretty good. I'm not sure if it's supposed to have these jagged, but it's on the same on both sides, so I'm assuming that that's how it's meant to be. But getting around there, there's some little fuzzy spots there, but not too bad. I do like that they actually put a wash on the muscles here. You might not be able to see it so well. I could see some on this side. Can you? Yeah. So not too bad. Taking a look at this arm, since this arm has the spiked sort of band going around there. You can see they half-assly paint these spikes. So some of them are half red, some of them are full silver. Yeah, not the best. I don't particularly mind the pins as long as the colors on each side sort of lines up with whatever is there. So it's not too much of a problem, but you can see this pin isn't the same color white as this one. And you can see on the hands they actually did more of that wash as well, which is a good thing to see. Not too bad. Taking a look at the back of him, it's actually quite clean in the back here, and you can see a little bit more of that wash going on there. These two holes we'll talk about later, but they didn't bother to paint this skull in the back here like they painted this one. So another detail I'm gonna have to probably fill in. Other than this little black speck right here, the upper piece does look fairly clean. You can see those nice metal chains on this. And this one seems to have like a more silvery paint job done in it, as opposed to the back one. It just seems a little bit more flat. It's definitely more shiny than this one. The pouches on the legs there, they do look good, but again, they didn't do a wash or anything on it, whereas they did it on the hands and the body, so it does look a little bit flat. You can see these knees not looking the greatest. When I try to straighten these knees and close these gaps, the knees actually looks like it's broken. So yeah, so you're always gonna have to have that little gap there. And the both knees seem to be a different color black than what is on the thighs and the lower legs. Taking a look at this spiked piece here. One spike was pressing against the back of the box, so this one is like warped. But you can see they did like a little slight wash on this one. The problem with this piece here is it keeps sagging down like this. It was actually like this in the box, so it's pretty loose and you have to keep pulling it up like that, but it's something I'll probably just glue into place. This leg, for some strange reason, is like extremely loose on mine. I'm not sure if these are these lower legs are supposed to be. They look kind of bowed, but yeah, it's kind of a strange design there. Getting down to this side, not much to talk about there. Do have some slight wrinkles on the leg, but that's about it. At the bottom, nothing there but some peg holes. But zooming out, I wanted to show you all my biggest gripe with this figure. And I didn't realize it at first, but every time I tried to stand him up, I realized he's just not standing up. What is going on with this figure? Until I realized one leg is longer than the other. Imagine that, and by a few millimeters as well. So that causes a big problem when you're trying to stand them up. Well, at least for me. I'm not sure if anybody else has the same issue. But you gotta put him in some kind of like spread pose for him to be able to stand up. If you were standing him up straight, he's not gonna be able to do it. He'll be lopsided. Like that. Getting right into his soft goods cape. I do kind of like the color. I know some people don't. I would have preferred, obviously, if they had a wire going through the top of it, so they could angle it however you wish. What I do think they could have done was probably pull this back a little bit, and maybe just put a stitch right there. And you could have it a little bit away from his head. That's how it is in the comics. It's not usually like right up like how this figure is. Usually sitting back a little bit like this, which I'll probably have to do myself, of course. But taking a look at the cape, they did try to do like some dirty, like a dirty wash all over it, so it doesn't just look like clean cloth. I saw some people mentioning that this was like a hood or something, but this is not a hood. This is meant to be that sort of folds that happens at the back of his cape. I'll put a screenshot to show you what I mean. But what I think would have made this cape a lot better was like putting some pleats in it. And some more wires, of course. So when you have the cape all pleated like that, and then you have you make it a little bit longer, so it could actually like swoop out like that, like how it usually
sits around him. One of the biggest downfalls of this cape, although they did try to put some wire in the cape, they ended the wire right here instead of anchoring it to the body. So if you try to put the cape up like this, there's nothing to anchor it, it'll just fall right down. I'm just holding it in place like that. So nothing to anchor it.
Now forgive me if I'm wrong, and you can correct me in the comments, but I remember Spawn when he was like in this costume, his cape was like undamaged, and it's only as the comic progressed, it got more damaged after battles and stuff like that. But I think like his initial appearance there, his cape wasn't like tattered and stuff as yet. That was more of like a modern sort of design. Could be wrong, but I remember it being like that from the HBO show. And I'll throw some screenshots up there because I just recently watched it. I think this cape is alright. There's nothing like spectacular. You could probably get a custom cape that's a lot better than this. But I think for what it is, they did try to give you at least a fairly big cape for him. So ultimately, the figure does have some pros and cons about it, but based on the quality I see here, I can't exactly say that that is worth the $6 price point they're asking for. So getting right into the articulation on Spawn. Zoom in a little bit there. So his head does look up fairly well. Does look down a little bit, but not too much. His head does have some tilt. So that is good for those diagonal downs and ups. More diagonal ups than downs though. The shoulders do go up quite a good ways. Lays down to the side nicely. They can rotate all the way around. The cups on the shoulder there can go around like this on a ball joint. Unfortunately, there is no butterfly joint movement, so you can't get the arm in front of the chest. The bicep does have a swivel. His elbows are double jointed. His wrists are ball hinged, so you can either get that vertical movement or horizontal movement depending on the orientation. The torso, unfortunately, does not have much range. There's supposed to be a double ball peg at the top and a double ball peg at the waist, but together you could crunch forward barely anything. It does go back a fair amount though. You can tilt from side to side, and of course they can swivel at these points, though more at the top than at the waist. The legs kick forward about that high, kick back about that far. Can do quite a decent split. There is thigh rotations, but because of the fact that they sculpted a butt cheek under the butt cheek there, it sort of makes the thigh movement very, very limited. But if you do it, if you raise the leg, you can get a little bit more movement out of it, but still not ideal. The knee is double jointed. Man, these spikes are really sharp, so you can get some good range on that knee. Unfortunately, there is no swivel at the top of this boot or anything, but there is a swivel at the ankle, which is very loose on this side, and the ankle can go forward about that far, can go back about that far, and it does have an ankle rocker, and it does have toe joints there. So very standard articulation for a Mcfarlane figure, which is to say not the greatest at all. A lot of modification has to be done to these figures to be able to utilize the torso range and also get some thigh cuts and stuff. I might do that because without that, this figure is not going to be able to pose very well at all. So for accessories, he does come with 2 fists default in package. He does come with these 2 style pose hands, so you could kind of recreate this artwork here, though his articulation won't allow you to do that. Comes with a gripping hand for the left hand side and a slightly open clawed hand for the right hand side. And the gripping hand could be used to hold this accessory, which is some sort of a mace that he created, maybe. Does seem to have like a big spike going through it there. But the wood pattern is sculpted very nicely. It is molded in the brown, and then there's a darker wash going through it. But it does look pretty good though. And it does look good in his gripping hand there. He does also come with this green power effect. And it does have like a darker green wash going through it. It does look alright, but I think it would have been better if it was like fully translucent green. So this is the correct hand he's supposed to be using with the powers if you want to replicate the classic image. So trying to figure out how to get this thing inside here was quite a chore. But ultimately what I had to do was just get this little this kind of nub into the palm of his hand. And then once it's like that, kind of angle it down and in. And then you could kind of get the holes to line up. And hopefully his hand could peg in there. And once I get it in his hand, that's probably about as best as I could get that pose to be with the limited articulation he has. He does come with these 2 pegs with chains running through them. And these are basically loose, so you could actually pull the chain straight out of there if you wished. But I guess you're supposed to have them like that. And then I guess you could extend them if you so wish for certain poses maybe or something. Ultimately I would have just attached the end to the peg right there. But these plug into the back as we mentioned earlier. So you can have that one there. Then you have that one on that side. So then you could have his chains draping down as well. Or you could have them shooting out or wrapping around his hands and stuff. It's kind of cool, but I wish there was some way to like have the chains suspended. Maybe I'll have to run like a wire through them or something. He also does come with this base, which is like cobblestones or something. It is nicely detailed, and it does have a nice wash going through it there. But the best part about this base is that it's the only flipping thing that can help him stand. And he does have peg holes on either one of his feet, so you can't plug him in on anyone. I'm going to plug him in on the left side as my right leg is extremely loose. So this left leg is going to have to do all the work. And he does stand nicely on the base there. And perhaps the best part about this entire figure is the actual unmasked head, which does look really fantastic. Let's see if I can pop this one off. At least the swap was nice and easy. And there you go. Taking a closer look at the head there, you can see all those raw spots and stuff like that. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he didn't have this shoelace initially. Like when he had this costume, I think that was more of a modern design. I could be wrong, but still does look really cool. Don't mind it at all. Taking a look at all the back of it and stuff. See all that gross muscle and stuff under there. Does look really good. And there's a wash going through it and stuff. Really a nice head sculpt. So for height, a little bit tough to get this measurement because he's lopsided, as you can see there. Trying to stand him up straight, but he's about 7.5 inches tall, a little bit less than 7.5 inches. So here he is with the Mcfarlane Nightfall Batman, Mcfarlane JLA Flash, a Marvel Legends Captain America, a Black Series Mando, G.I. Joe Classified Footloose, and an SHF Daima Goku.
So in closing, it's a real tough recommend for this figure. I definitely don't feel like the figure is worth the $60 price point. I got it because I wanted a classic spawn basically, and I missed out on the Kickstarter spawn, and this was the best option that I could have gotten. I personally don't think they'll be releasing another classic spawn anytime soon, so this might be it for a while. That said, I'm still very disappointed in a lot of the things on this figure. The lack of torso range, the lack of butterfly joints, the lack of downward head movement, the very loose ankle on mine on the right hand side, and on my case one of the legs was longer than the other, so it causes a lot of problems for me when I'm trying to stand them up. I'll fix these things once this review is done, but I have to mention all those things just in case you'll come across the same issues. But some of the things I do like about the figure, I do kind of like the cape. It could have been a little bit better in terms of they could have add more wires and they could have anchored those main sides to the chest, so once you pose the wires they would stay up in the air. And also it would have been nice if they added a wire to the collar, but it still does look alright, and you could probably get a custom cape that'll be 10 times better than this, but it'll also probably cost just as much as the figure. So for what it is, I think it's alright. I like the fact that it included a lot of the metal chains and stuff like that, so that was pretty cool. The paintwork on the figure I think is pretty good. For the most part the line work and stuff is relatively clean, except for some areas on the arms and a little bit around the mask, but it's not too noticeable with the naked eye. And also the unmasked head sculpt is quite a standout. I think it's really nice. But I tried my best to point out all the pros and cons of the figures for y'all, so the choice is now up to you. Nonetheless, hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope this helps anybody who was on the fence about getting this figure, and until next time, y'all take care.